Hello, Zarrar. This is Ramdas Menon, part of the programming team at Indie Meme. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. First of all, congratulations on a debut full-length feature. Uh, Directing a binational team from both Pakistan and Canada, and also creating or putting together a very complex movie. It has won several awards, and I want to mention the Cannes Directors Fortnight feature, where it was featured last year. And a full list of awards is available in the wiki page, and the audience can go to that. But there are at least 2 or 3 best feature film winning awards from the various festivals it has been shown. So, shall we go ahead and can I ask you some questions about the movie?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. My first question is, since you wrote, or since you also wrote the script and the story, why did you choose to portray patriarchy, to quote one critic, as a psychological horror story as compared to different genres?
I think what attracted me about using genre is because it can kind of heighten what the feelings of those characters are. And for a lot of the women who were close to me, they're working in film in Pakistan. When they tell me about their experiences, the way that they describe them are often coded as horror. Because the feeling can be menacing, can be sinister, can be insidious. And so when I wanted to approach exploring the patriarchy in South Asia, I wanted to speak to what it feels like, but also I wanted to utilize a different type of filmmaking that we don't usually necessarily see in our own communities. We don't have a long legacy of genre filmmaking. Um, However, that's changing now. There's a lot of really exciting new genre films that have been coming out in the last few years. So I think more and more filmmakers are now gravitating uh, towards that as a way to speak to issues within South Asia.
I know that you listed some of the influences on your work. Is there one particular director or producer that whose work you really admire and you're trying to emulate?
I mean, I admire a range, so I can't say one particular. I'm like formally really like I love Satyajit Ray's work. I love what he does from story. I think he was, a genius, as does everyone else. But the film of his that really resonated with me was The Big City, which spoke to like urban gender roles. And I remember watching that film and just being like, wow, how was this story being told when it was being told? And I really admire his formal as a craftsman, what he was able to do. And then for contemporary filmmakers, so I love the old masters, like people like Bertolucci, the filmmakers who really appreciate what films can do in a visual sense. But then for contemporary filmmakers like Julia Ducournau, Molly Sura, Jordan Peele, all people who are working within genre, and all people who in North America wouldn't have necessarily had the ability to tell a film of this scale. So we are seeing people from marginalized communities now taking up the camera and telling stories in their own ways. And I think there's something really exciting to be a part of that.
Great. In filming and post-filming production or post-shoot production, are there areas where you and your team came across creative differences in how a scene is portrayed or how an actor should respond to a situation?
I mean, yes, but my team was also like very much there to support my vision, but it was kind of like demystifying what my vision was to them. I always really kind of knew what I wanted to do and how I wanted to say it and where this film would live and what kind of a film it was. But that being said, the film blends a lot of different genres. It's a coming of age romance, it's a psychological thriller, it's a family drama, and it's putting all of those different genres together. And when you're doing that, you're creating something that in some ways is new, that hasn't been done. It would have been a lot easier to sell this film or to raise financing for this film if it really just adhered to the rules of one of those genres. So because I knew in my head what this film looked like, It was just communicating that to my team. So in the first like week, there were some bumps, but then, we were shooting for 25 days. By the end of it, we were really this very strong functioning machine where everyone understood the visual language as well as the way that I want these characters to be portrayed, which, is with a great amount of restraint because I find when you're in a society where the ground is always shaking, nothing is stable, it's restraint and resilience that really end up shaping those characters and those performances. And I think that's why a lot of people have found the story to be so accessible to them and uh, also show their own experiences.
So, how did you cast the two main female leads in this? I mean, how did you find out about their work, and how did you recruit them to this
So
project?
I'd been working in theater in Pakistan for like the greater part of 10 years in Karachi, and I was casting for a short film in 2018 that ended up inspiring what In Flames was.
Mhm.
And it was the artistic director of the National Academy of Performing Arts in Pakistan, Zain Ahmed, who recommended this actress that he knew, Bakhtaur Mazer, who had just started doing theater again. And I met with Bakhtaur, and at this point, I didn't really have a body of work. So, I remember Bakhtaur being like, who is this young guy? Why should I do his movie? And then she went with it, and we made a short film, and that short film ended up screening at the Locarno Film Festival in 2018. So that was actually my first short that played internationally, and exposed me to the greater kind of global independent filmmaking community. And then me and Bakhtaur, our relationship deepened over the years, and she did a few other shorts with me. And she's also been a really great collaborator and given incredible script notes on the character of Fariha that she ended up playing the role of the mother. With Ramisha Nawal, who plays the role of Mariam in the film, we actually casted her a few weeks before shooting. We had another actress attached who wasn't able to do the role, and then she had to drop out. And then I was like, oh no, we can't move our dates. We're a very micro budget film, so like we have to keep the ship moving. And we did an open casting call. Ramisha heard of it. We did a Zoom audition, and it was after this 145-minute Zoom audition, I was entranced. I couldn't believe how powerful her presence is in front of the camera. So for both of these actresses, this is their first feature length film. For Ramisha, it's her first time on camera. So it's been a really incredible journey of working with both of them. And Bakhtaur actually had two other films released this year as well. One is called Wakri by Aaron Bilal Perveen that premiered at Red Sea. Another is called Queen of My Dreams that was also at TIFF, BFI, and South by. So she's had a huge year. And Ramisha's where she's been touring with the film for the last year. So she was at Red Sea, she was at Cannes, and now she's going to be coming for a North American tour that we're commencing in a few weeks. So it's been a really incredible journey with these actresses, and I'm really grateful to them for coming on board this film.
So, your networks in Pakistan came through after you moved there and established yourself in the theater scene.
A little bit. I mean, my family, we moved to Canada when I was in when I was 9. I had my 10th birthday in Canada, and then we moved back when I was 16. So I also did high school there, and actually I set up a theater company when I was in high school, and we used to stage independent productions. And then after college, I did college in Canada, and then I moved back and I started doing theater again. And then that kind of organically helped me build my network. I had one really lucky break when I was, I think, 24. I did a Kickstarter, and this was when Kickstarter was new for a short film, my first short film that I made with all my theater friends. And we went viral. We were picked up by like The Hindu, we were picked up by Fader, Vice, a bunch of different organizations. And even though this was really the beginning of my career and that short film was a terrible movie, it had a really good trailer. So, and that opened a lot of doors for me at a younger age that allowed me to start really learning how to make films because I never went to film school. So I was kind of just learning by making shorts.
Mhm. This is an appropriate time to ask you a personal question. What did you're the son of immigrant parents. What did they say, your parents say, when you said you're going to major in theater at Queen's?
I was lucky that my older sister's a doctor and my older brother's in finance. So I'm the youngest of three, and they had two other kids who really did what was needed to be done as immigrant South Asian family. So I could be the wild card. And now, of course, I told you so. I always knew you were going to be successful. So it's nice to be on the other side of it.
Okay. In my opinion, and the opinion of several others in the programming team, this is a very complex, multi-layered film with many different threads. As a scriptwriter and as a director, how much weight do you give to the fact that your audience would need to do some work to untangle the threads of the story?
Ultimately, I'm making films, making stories and telling stories that I enjoy as an audience. And I enjoy films that challenge me, films that I have to stay engaged for to put the pieces together. I watched this great film last night called The Settlers, which was Chile's film for their Oscar nominee. And it also was a challenging film, but I think those are the kind of films that keep cinema exciting. So, and I like to rewatch movies. And I'm like, if you can't watch it more than once, if it hands you everything at the first watch, for me, that's not a film that's worth sitting through. I like films that challenge you, that don't give you all the neat answers. Also, because I don't think there's any neat answers in life. So why should films be any less difficult than life is?
Great. In a movie like this, where you're involved in a binational effort, both Pakistan and Canada, working with teams from different backgrounds, what are the main challenges that you had in bringing your concept to fruition?
I mean, financing is always really difficult. We started the journey in 2018, and given the fact that it was being shot in Pakistan in Urdu, I'm not sure if you know, Pakistan doesn't really have a film industry or film incentives or any kind of film funds. So it's very difficult to get a film like this off the ground. And we ended up kind of doing the international European um, festival circuit and attending a lot of labs and programs. And it was in Berlin at 2020 that I met with Canadian Indian producer Shant Joshi of Fay Pictures. And he recommended that we finance it 100% out of Canada. And part of that was because the Canadian funding model was changing, where, this is the first film from this program called Talent to Watch in Canada that is shot in Pakistan, that is shot entirely in the Urdu language, because prior to that, it would need to be shot in one of Canada's national languages or on Canadian soil. Simultaneously, this is the first film from that same program to make it to Cannes. So, now it's also like, look at what you can do when you empower filmmakers to tell stories in the way that they want to do, in the language that they want to do. And I'm hoping for that'll continue globally because, with the advent of streaming, people are now watching movies everywhere, and we're coming closer in some ways to like a global language, which I think is quite interesting. Um, but yeah, there was a ton of challenges. Bringing our Canadian crew in, getting visas. It was also during COVID. But there was also advantages, the Canadian dollar to Pakistani rupee goes a really long way. So I think you always have to, be aware of the advantages that you have even in challenging times.
Great. Um, you are developing an audience across the border in India, and you mentioned the Hindu did a review or picked up on some of the work you've done. Do you want to talk about that? I mean, this cross-border exchanges or at least sharing of movies and films and that sort of thing?
I mean, like I feel like now with Pakistan and India, there's so much of like us sending love letters of art to each other and appreciating each other's art where our governments don't allow that. I did the Asian Film Academy, and it was part of my training where I really learned cinema under some really incredible Asian filmmakers. And it was me and like this incredible Indian sound designer and other filmmakers from Sri Lanka, from Nepal. And as a Pakistani filmmaker, we're really geopolitically isolated. So it was, awful to go to Korea and sense and suddenly feel like you're part of a South Asian community and being like, why can't we do this on our own soil? I hope, I'm optimistic for the future. I think India and Pakistan naturally share so many values and systems and communities. I made a film called 1978, which was about the Goan Christian community And we got picked up by the Goa National, and they were like, this is a community that we don't have any films about in India, and they're still largely based over there. And I was making a film about them in Karachi in the 70s. So I think we'll always champion each other's work. We'll always find each other's work exciting. Me and my friends have a joke. We say that it's like you're obsessed with your ex. So you're always keeping track of what they're doing. But yeah, I hope that one day we'll be able to release In Flames in India. Let's see.
Okay. My final question, if I can call it final, is it has to do with something you already touched on, the journey from Canada back to Pakistan. And you did mention in response to my question about networks and all that. So what was it like? I mean, you spent 12 years in Canada and then you moved back up to college, I assume. What was it like trying to gain entree into an entirely new environment?
I mean, caveat being that I was actually back and forth every 5 years.
Okay.
So it was hard. I'm not going to pretend it wasn't, but I had done an internship in Karachi with Sharmeen Obid-Chinoy, Pakistan's two-time Oscar winner. I did that during my college years. I went back for a summer, and um, working with her was my first network. She's also an incredibly dedicated and really crafted space for herself and documentary female filmmakers when there was none. So having that initial network when I landed, I really leaned on that. And then I also think that people find their networks organically through doing work. When I first moved back, I met with a friend of mine who was a Karachi-based documentary filmmaker, and I was like, "Where am I going to find gaffers? Where am I going to find these people?" And he's like, "Just keep putting out work, and those people will find you." And they
Hmm.
did. Um, so I think my advice to like younger filmmakers is, just keep putting out the best work of your that you can, and your tribe will find you. Like the people that I'm working with in Karachi are now some of the leading producers and first ACs and stylists. But when we were all starting out together 5 years ago, it was like a barren landscape. Right now, there's a lot of excitement for Pakistani cinema. So it's exciting to be a part of that. And I'm now executive producing short films in South Asia, and we have a film that's coming out this fall festival circuit. So the goal is to keep bridging Canada and Pakistan, and bridging these resources in whatever way I can.
That's a nice segue into my next question, which is, what's your next creative project?
I have a big feature that I'm really excited about that is about climate change. It's inspired by the floods that happened in Karachi and my firsthand experience of those. And it's set both in Karachi and in small town Canada. And it's about, the futility of being an artist when you feel like the world is ending all around you, and what it means to still create art in spite of that. And then I'm also executive producing a few different short films. Some are set in Pakistan, some are in Canada, and I'm also developing a TV show. So I'm keeping busy, um, but it's been a really wild journey.
So all the accolades that In Flames has gotten over the years, over the last year, that has probably helped you in your career as you move along, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was because of that I was able to quit my full-time job. I was working full-time up until 2.5 months ago. So in the nonprofit field, and simultaneously, being a filmmaker. And that's just part of being a filmmaker or being an artist today. So these accolades have helped me, be a full-time filmmaker again. And I'm really excited and recognize that that's a hugely privileged position to be in.
Great. Well, that's all I have, and I want to thank you for joining us in this question and answer. You've been very helpful in providing a context to the film. It's a wonderful, multi-layered, complex movie, and it's also genre bending and pretty innovative in many ways. So I look forward to an audience reaction from our audience.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I hope that your audience takes away that at the heart, the film is about resistance and community, and how people come together to find pockets of joy and survival um, anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and I think one of the reviewers, critics, used the word agency, where the victim has agency, and I think this probably addresses that issue. Thank you very much, Zarrar.